Welcome to RHI's Sociable City Interviews, where we meet with global thought leaders on nightlife and the social economy. Today we are here with Sonya Broadley, Chief DEI and Community Relations Officer, where she strengthens the connection of Visit Sacramento with the greater community and key stakeholders. She was also a contributor to Destination International's Social Inclusion Study on destination organizations.
Well, hello, Sonya. Great to see you today. I hope you're having a great day in Sacramento, and we're looking forward to coming for our summit in a couple of months.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, it's a beautiful day here. In fact, the sky is blue, a little chilly for me, but sky is blue, and we're looking forward to having you here in Sacramento.
okay. Well, I want to get a little bit of your background. I mean, what is it what was the pathway? Everybody has their pathway to get into what they're doing. So what has been your pathway, and what specifically do you do now?
Sure. So I've been in the tourism destination marketing industry for probably going on over 25 years now. I, I always tell people that I got into it because I wanted a short commute. I was living in the Bay Area and wanted an internship that was closer to where I was going to school, and ended up at SF Travel as an intern, and that started my career path as in the tourism hospitality industry. I was in the marketing and communication field pretty much my entire career. Prior to that, I actually did retail advertising. So I was in the marketing communication field, and then several years ago when the world sort of turned on its head in 2020, and people and us were talking about how can we be better at what we do, how do we open opportunities for people. I took on basically the chief DEI officer role, and that's been evolving, gosh, since at least since 2021. And fortunate enough to be part of a lot of committees and organizations, associations that are trying to do this work. And today I'm the Chief Inclusion and Community Engagement Officer. We've added a few people to my team. And a lot of our work actually revolves around how do we work better with the community to bring them into the tourism ecosystem.
Mm, That's exciting work. Now, I know that you were part of a team that organized the Destination International Marketing, social inclusion for destination organizations. And I know it has multi focuses, both just on how do destination organizations, embrace diversity and help build a staff that's reflective of the community, but also how to market the city to diverse populations. And I like to have you define that term social inclusion. I first came across it through that publication, but then I learned that the World Bank also has social inclusion as one of its principal objectives, really on a global scale. So how do you define social inclusion from all of the experiences that you've had, and how does it differ from the basic DEI concept?
So yeah, so Destination International, they were used the term EDI, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Yeah, a little over a year ago, they expanded to include social inclusion. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they are an international organization. And so being able to share the EDI, in this case, or social inclusion, with their members, they use social inclusion because it also encompasses the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we wanted to ensure that honestly that it was more inclusive. So we want to make sure that things like gender equality was being touched upon, and reduced inequalities and sustainability as well. So the idea was to and capture all of that under the social inclusion term. What it does not do is diminish the work of those who are in the DEI space and diversity, equity, inclusion, because it falls up under that umbrella. But they want to broaden that sense because every community, every state, every country looks at it differently, right? So when we want to talk about disability access, we want to ensure that it falls under social inclusion. And so that's how it grew. Like, all the credit goes to Sophia Heiderhock at Destination International and her team there. They really put in the work to build out the social inclusion framework, whereas each community can look at that and see, okay, these are the areas that are affecting my community the most. So maybe it's homelessness, right? And so being able to follow under social inclusion, you've got the support, and you've got people surrounding you who are also working in that space. So that's how it came to be. And I think for the work around destinations, that's kind of important because not every destination or the people or the officials or what have you embrace DEI or inclusion or what have you. And so we wanted to give our members, or DEI wanted to give their members, an opportunity to still do the work, because honestly, tourism is about being welcoming, right? And we don't turn people away. We don't judge people. We want to ensure that everyone comes to our communities and enjoys the different, all the assets that we have here. And so that's sort of and it's also the humanity of social inclusion that they wanted to get out.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. You're helping me to think through this because in a lot of ways, for almost a decade now, we've talked about sociable cities as destinations, and we talk about social experiences and social districts and social venues, because sociability is really what builds a community. It's the people getting together and telling their stories and sharing food and sharing beverages. And I think today in America, anyhow, we can see how that diversity has impacted the culinary world, where you have a merger of, my wife just had a recipe of Vietnamese spaghetti, from San Francisco. So it's like Vietnamese spaghetti, so it's taking spaghetti instead of your traditional, Asian pasta, or they don't call it pasta, but the noodles from an Asian culture, substitute it with Italian spaghetti and use the same kind of seasonings. And so it's that diversity that leads to this fusion of food. And you go to bars today, you've got specialty drinks with fruits and vegetables and juices that come from all over the world. So in a lot of ways, social inclusion also highlights the whole concept of sociability and how it's changing. You've already awakened me to rethinking this in a different way. I appreciate that.
Well, food, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned food. I mean, we're in America's farm to fork capital, right? Sacramento, and food is in our DNA. It's in our lifeblood. It's honestly what helped build California, and it's what's part of Sacramento. And so to your point, there's so many different varieties of food, and they come from so many different cultures and ethnicities. And it really does bring people together. So absolutely on the food part.
Yeah, I read somewhere that salsa is more popular than ketchup in the United States. So
I can believe that.
it just shows you how that's all evolved. So you've kind of explained why this is important for Visit Sacramento to highlight the city as a destination for diverse populations to visit, live, and work. So I mean, I would think that your goal is to market the city. I mean, Visit Sacramento. So you're marketing the city. And I know one particular focus that you have is with the LGBTQ plus community. And you put together an outstanding kind of welcoming video that highlights, the not only the acceptance, but the opportunities for that population to come and live and work and play in Sacramento. You want to talk a little bit about what inspired you to do that, and then some other campaigns that you put together?
Sure. Our brand platform for Sacramento is all about around all people being welcome, right? The inclusivity of Sacramento. And so it's not enough to talk. And so again, I have a marketing background that's sort of in my blood as well. And as part of DEI community engagement, we talk a lot about how do we speak directly to specific types of customers. Not everyone has a different have something different that attracts them or places they want to go and why. And so we looked at the LGBTQ plus community as a market, an audience that we think would feel welcome here. And we wanted to showcase that to specifically that community. I mean, brass tacks says there's a lot of spending power there, and I don't have the number offhand, but there's a lot of spending power amongst the LGBT community. There's also a lot of loyalty to destinations and brands that accept and welcome them. And so we want to be one of those destinations and brands that when we say you're welcome here, that we prove it not only visually, but quite frankly with resources. So we put resources towards an LGBTQ plus campaign ongoing. We have an agency that we've worked with. We have an advisory committee as well. So it's not just a one and done. It's not something we do just during Pride Month. It's all year round that we promote and communicate and tell the stories about the LGBTQ plus community. But we have campaigns and promotions to several diverse communities. We have an ongoing Latino campaign as well. We have, materials in Spanish as well. Sacramento has one of the fastest growing Latino populations in the country. California in general has that, but especially Sacramento. And so we wanted to, again, speak to an audience that is interested not in Latino culture, but really Latinos that they feel welcome coming to Sacramento. Because at the end of the day, right, we all go to museums and attractions. Those appeal to all of us, but sometimes the language and communication you use is important because then it makes them feel like, oh, you are speaking directly to me. And so that's what we want to do with that campaign. We did a neighborhood series where we highlighted some of the neighborhoods, which I hope some of the attendees to the summit get to check out, whether it's our Little Saigon neighborhood or the Northgate neighborhood where a lot of Latino businesses are, Oak Park where a lot of Black-owned businesses are. And again, our objective is to, I just call widening the table, right? We want everyone at the table. Like I think there's this belief somehow that when you bring people in, you're taking something away, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Our idea is to widen the table, is to bring more people in. At the end of the day, I also want people to benefit from tourism. I talk about that tourism ecosystem. Like, how do we bring some of these communities that haven't traditionally been involved into the tourism ecosystem so they can benefit from tourism? So that's what we're looking at doing.
So it sounds to me like something I've heard about being a tourist in your own city, that I remember during, right after 9/11, when a lot of cities were struggling because there were so many restrictions on air traffic. We had been working in San Diego at the time. Reinders was the guy that was there in their convention and visitors bureau. And, they put together a campaign of be a tourist in your own city, because a lot of times, you could go to New York, and a lot of New Yorkers who've lived in New York for their whole life, and they've never been to the Empire State Building or the Statue of Liberty.
Right.
They don't go to the museums. So do you see that as also kind of a social inclusion, that it's not only marketing to external populations, but marketing to your internal population about the opportunities that exist? So do you think these campaigns accomplish both?
100%. I will tell you the best marketing, it will always be word of mouth. It will always be your friends, your families, your neighbors telling you about that great experience that they just had, right? And then of course with social media, right? Everything, people share everything. But the reality is, yeah, like we know, first of all, you have to realize too, more Californians visit more Californians destination. Like most of our visitations come from other Californians. So the idea that my neighbor might have seen a video that I did, and anecdotally, I know I've had plenty of people have said to me, gosh, I love that you highlighted this particular neighborhood. Either one, they've been there and they love it and they appreciate that they're getting sort of the love from us, or two, I didn't know that existed. I can't wait to go try this. And so without a doubt, getting your local community to understand what's around them is the best type of promotion and marketing you can do. Because ultimately that also permeates out. Like, from Visit Sacramento's standpoint, we're trying to drive overnight visitors, but we also know that it's often a friend or a family member that can convince you to come to Sacramento. So you're absolutely spot on that.
So you mentioned neighborhoods, and you know, I think as much as we don't like to think about segregation, people tend to cluster within their cultural groups, their ethnic groups. And then, you know, while they're there to serve their own populations, they don't necessarily um, try to appeal or market outside. But it sounds to me like that's what you're trying to do. Like if you have a New Saigon neighborhood, it's primarily called that because it's where the Vietnamese have settled as a population and they have restaurants, but many people may not go there because they're not aware of it or they don't feel like they would be welcome. But it sounds to me like that's what you're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, that, you know, the little Saigon area developed as exactly as you said. The Vietnamese settled there, and you know, it's always comfort, right, when you're around people that you know. But if you when you visit those areas and you visit their places, they're always so welcoming to people. They love to show off um what they do because, you know, because they don't always get the recognition, right? And so being able to share their foods, their cultural items. I've never been to a place that hasn't welcomed or is enthusiastic about sharing what they have. And so when people come from the outside, so to speak, they do appreciate it. I
Mhm.
have found that it's appreciated, and I've seen that particularly in the Little Saigon areas. I've gotten to know more of the business owners down there. That there is definitely actually there's even more pride about what's happening in their community and the recognition that they're getting.
It's probably economically important for them too, because
Oh,
now
for
they're
sure.
they're they're expanding their market base, and so the small businesses are actually benefiting from this be a tourist in your own town type of a concept. Yeah. So you know, you've really educated me a lot here, and everything that you've said just speaks to this broad context of social inclusion as a way to make sure that there's diversity and equity and inclusion, and really all of those things that really build businesses, help people become more successful in their roles. Um, and at the same time, on a national level, you have this force that's coming to say all of this is just taking away opportunities from a traditional population, that you're accelerating and putting people into roles and positions that they don't deserve. It doesn't sound to me like that's what you're doing. So how do you think people in your position can work against some of these external forces that are challenging that what you're doing is really a negative versus all that you're talking about and all of the positivity that you're presenting that this idea of social inclusion has?
It's gonna sound a little trite, but you have to stay the course. You have to stay firm in our beliefs. There is definitely that. There's a little bit of human nature, right? If I'm not getting something, then therefore someone has taken it from me, which I think any bit of history will show you that has never been the case. I don't, there are times I don't know how you explain that a rising tide lifts all boats. Um, and there's almost this belief among some people that we rise the tide, doesn't lift all boats. We'd rather drown a couple people.
Mhm.
So I can have more boats. Like I don't understand, I don't fully understand it. But I think you stay the course. Honestly, there's also with businesses in particular, um, you do have to show a bottom line success. You have to show how it helps the bottom line. There are many studies out there that have shown by having diverse populations in your organizations and your business improves your bottom line.
Mhm.
Um, so, you know, we have to be cognizant that we are all in a business of some sort. And so I want to ensure that, you know, I'm helping the bottom line, whether I'm helping to bring new convention groups to Sacramento or new events to Sacramento based on what the environment is here. And I'm able to talk about that. Um, I don't, there are days it definitely flummoxes me why we're at this point, but I think it's just this need, we have to stay the course. And Jim, this is nothing new. Those of us
Mhm.
who started the work, you've been in it for a long time. We've seen backlash before. Now it's just, obviously it seems harsher right now, but it's almost like another group of people have to be hurt before they actually see how the bigger group is also being hurt. Shouldn't be like that, but it is. So I guess to answer your question, in my position, I just want to stay the course. We have a strong value system. And I will always say to anyone, I'm very fortunate to have leadership that believes in this and the core values of DEI. And it's always been about opportunity, And I've never, that seems to be something some people don't understand, but I talk about, it's so simple to just enlarge the table or add more chairs. And that's all we're doing.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a great summation of what you're doing. And the key word is opportunity, that everybody wants and needs opportunity, no matter what their background and their perspective is. And it seems to me like you're really helping to facilitate that in terms of Visit Sacramento, but on a broader scale, just through the educational campaigns that it's applicable to every city that comes across the work that you're doing. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time. You certainly informed and educated me more beyond what I've already known, and I look forward to continuing to learn more about your work.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Jim. I really appreciate it.
Okay.